So in this section, because like I mentioned, we are a multi-stakeholder and movement cooperative that represents many different values, we want to make sure that all of the different parts of what we represent is represented in the oversight body of the cooperative. So we are a mission-driven multi-stakeholder cooperative. The 8 owls are currently present, are set up to make sure that all aspects of our stakeholders and mission are fairly represented. So what I'll do is go around the room and introduce your position and ask you to introduce your position, purpose, and who you are as a human. This is an opportunity for us to get a better understanding of how the mission and stakeholders are anchored on the board and build stronger relationship with each other. So on this agenda, you can see listing out 8 different positions, which attach to a name. I can start just to model what exactly this whole thing looks like. I know it could be a little confusing because we're all wearing a number of hats. So just to provide clarity, we just wanted to focus our hat as the board member. So for me, hello everyone. I'm the Grassroots Clean Energy Director that is appointed by the local Clean Energy Alliance. My name is Huang. I use any pronoun. A little bit about myself. I have spent pretty much most of my entire career, in fact, in the climate solutions sector, mostly in business. I started my career in working for the largest solar panel manufacturer in the world, and then trying to figure out how to make solar panels cheaper so that we can be competitive to fossil fuel, trying to use this idea of green capitalism, because capitalism is not going anywhere, to actually save the world from climate change. And my journey of really trying to figure out how to create better clean energy access literally got disrupted and thrown out the window when I realized that climate change is not the problem. It's only a symptom of a much larger systemic issue. And in fact, it was a lot of meeting and getting to know Brandi that made me realize how big of a systemic issue this whole thing is. And it's the same system that created all the things that's, quote, distracting us away from caring about climate change. And I realized that unless we can actually build a space where we can lift up the voices and the wisdom, really, and experience of the people in the front line who are experiencing the reality of our system, we are not going to design the solution that actually works. I used to work with really powerful and wealthy people who have their own assumption of how the solution for climate change should look like. And it's a huge waste of time and money. So I feel so blessed to be able to work with a bunch of amazing people. Every day I wake up feeling so blessed and inspired by the people, especially a lot of people in this room here, to try to figure out how we can actually put the leadership into the hands of the people who are experiencing the problem, to be able to lead the process of something that is being carved out for a few people to be able to do, because it's designed to be so technical and complicated. Anyway, that's me. And I'm just looking at the list here, and I can pass it to governance director, Brandi. And if you can pass it down after you're done, pass it to the next person, which would be the financial director, Zolboo. That would be great.
Greetings, everyone. I wanted to get my camera on. Sometimes it slows it down when the camera's on, so that's why it's off. I was raised better than that. Show your face and say you're here. So just wanted to make sure, and if it goes off, just know that it's a technical issue and not me not wanting to see y'all and y'all not wanting to see me. I'm grateful to hold a position of a governance director. And when you were talking, Crystal, in my mind, I actually felt a vibe energy, and kind of going back to a vibes checker when we talk about what is a governance director of our People Power Solar Cooperative. And really, it's a vibes checker, right? Because I'm really mindful of the word governance and some of these designs that have been imposed upon us in this colonial system to operate with each other as organisms, and particularly as companions, right? And so sometimes the words divide us, like governance. When I saw that word, it felt like a slice of some sort, like if we were slicing things. So I just want to say that my role is really kind of vibes check and thinking about how are we coexisting to really create the commons, and the knowledge around what's really important for all of us. We all eat, we all breathe. You can only go, what is it, 2 days without food? You can only go how long without a breath? Not very long. And so when we think about energy, there's a common thread for all of us. And so my intention is to kind of just, as we say, governance director. I love, we have to have these words, but I want you to notice we have owls, right? Like I recognize that's our thing. When I'm somewhere else and I say, yeah, the owls, we're doing this, I'll be in conversation. People are like, what are you talking about? Because our traditional word is the board, the council, all of these things, these words, these tools that we're trying to use to reimagine. We have to even reimagine those. And so my hope, my intention here is to support us in seeing the root cause of why energy is even an issue. And particularly as we think about water coming up next and some of these other issues around our natural resources that Mama Earth gave to all of us. And so I'm grateful to be here. I'm a mother. Everyone knows I'm a mother of 3 children. That's my motivation for being here. They have to be here when I'm not here. And the idea is to create and help the planet be regenerative when I am not available. And so that's my motivation for all the work I'm doing around the planet and for the people to continue to live on it. Pass it to Zolboo.
Hey everybody, this is Zolboo. So the prompt is just like who am I and what my role is. I am a youth organizer at Communities for a Better Environment. A lot of you may already know this nonprofit, but if you don't, we're a statewide environmental justice organization working in low-income communities of color to build grassroots and political power. And we're based out of 4 communities, 2 in Northern California and 2 in Southern California. I'm based in Oakland myself, but I'm the Richmond youth organizer. And I've been at my position for a little over 2.5 years. Previous to this, I was working as a grassroots fundraiser for a big green nonprofit. And so because of that, I am comfortable with, asking people for money and doing cold calls and that sort of stuff. And Crystal had asked if I was interested in running for this position. So because of my background in fundraising, I decided to do it. And just to be transparent, I haven't fundraised at all for People Power. And I still feel like I'm kind of catching up and still learning as far as like how the financial parts and all of this stuff, how it works. But definitely I'm grateful to be in this space and to be learning and growing with all of you. Yeah, hoping to grow into my position and just feel like and just get to a point where I feel like I actually understand what's going on and can contribute to the space better. Not sure who I should pass it to.
Well, for those people who are watching the recording, would you be able to state fully the position that you're referring to in the name?
Did you want me to say it again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is Zolboo Namkhaidorj and Financial Director.
And if you're looking at the agenda, you can going down to board intro, you can pass it on to Anchor Director.
Alrighty. So I'll pass it to the Anchor Director.
Cool. What's up with it, everybody? How y'all doing? It's Keta Price here, Anchor Director. Well, my name is Marquita. You can call me Keta. And a little bit about me and how I got into all of this. I'm a Panther Cub at heart, born and raised from East Oakland, deep East Oakland. Even though I didn't discover the Black Panthers until I got into college because of the lack of education that I received younger about them. But it was history. Once I went to Merritt College, home of the Black Panthers, where I really got into activism, I was actually a chemistry major. I was a science geek. And yeah, I started learning, I took African American studies for the first time, started learning about Black people beyond slavery and what I was taught in the European systems when I went to school, very limited to just American civil rights time and slavery. And then any other time I was studying empires across the seas. I knew everything about Confucius, Ottoman empires, everything, but I knew nothing about Black people. And whenever I asked about them, the teacher, my white history teacher, who I thought was cool, and she was cool for what cool was then, but when I really started asking about Black people, and she always said, oh, y'all were slaves. Like, we did these long timelines, and I'm like, okay, here, medieval times, where was Black people? We had to be somewhere. Oh, you were slaves. Like, that was always an answer. And I was a 4.0 student. I was going to school in Oakland Unified School District. It was too easy. So I left and went to school in Alameda. And in Alameda, I started seeing like, yeah, it's just the curriculum was just super whitewashed. The only thing I was doing good in was math and science because it had no color associated to it. So I thought. And so yeah, long story short, I didn't even graduate high school. I was a 4.0 student in middle school and then went to high school, and I got disinterested in everything. And so had to find my way back. And that's when I got to Merritt College and found my way and just got really rooted into community and kind of left science, and I discovered gentrification. My city in front of me was changing. Everybody was changing, leaving. And I just was like, what the hell is happening? And I just, on my own, started learning about what gentrification is from my own perspective. And so when I saw that, I started learning about city planning. I'm like, oh, damn, there's a whole process that's an allowable city process that helps this. Like, so why don't we just have people that look like me that's part of the process so we can plan? I didn't even know that it was a whole career to plan and design neighborhoods and cities. So now I became fascinated with planning and designing neighborhoods for and by the people that's actually living there or whatnot. And so, yeah, long story short, now I'm here. My full-time job is with the East Oakland Collective, where I'm a director of urban and regional planning, where I self-made myself as a planner. I worked there for 4 years doing the experience of what planners do. And I was going to go to Cal, but it was like, man, I can go to Cal and come out and be one of those students with a degree and no experience, or just go in and get the experience. And that's what I did. EOC let me make my own position, and it allowed me to, yeah, be what I want to be and show that we don't have to let the systematic label of what careers are be what it is. So yeah, that's how. And then I met Crystal and Brandi and folks, you feel me? Just doing climate and social economic work. And from there, I realized again, in this EJ world, that there's not a lot of talk about, or it may be some talk, but it's not enough centering of the Black low-income folks to me. And so that's what really interjected me in these kind of conversations. And the fact that I really I tried to in college, I tried to break away from the system when I really knew what was going on and how just when I knew what capitalism was, I tried to exit out, but I didn't have no sustainable system. I couldn't get no gas because everything was owned by somebody. My best friend left her job at Target because they support the industrial complex. We was just taking our money out of everything, but it wasn't ideal because then we had no power. We had nothing, you feel me? So that's what got me into this, because now that I realized I'm very, very militant at heart, and we're not ready to just break away and create our own government right now or system. So the best I can do is try to, get us to have ownership of the very essential things, which is power, water, and some other essentials. So that's what I'm doing here. A little long-winded, but that's what I'm doing here, really trying to find a way for us to get our own ownership of these smaller things, so then we can start seeing that we can govern or oversee our hoops ourselves, you feel me, instead of being under this broader system. But yes, that is me, and I'm proud to be here with y'all. Thank you, everyone, for voting me in.
Ashe, ashe. ESO plan. Sorry, I just had to go there. It's in me.
East Oakland, we in here.
Sorry, I'm from the West Side.
It's all good.
It's all good. Yeah, see, I'm from the West Side too. If you're really old school from Oakland, it wasn't many melanated people in Oakland. We transitioned here, so we live from west to east. again, the colonizer does a good job of chopping us down so that we don't work together. We set trip on land that we don't even own.
Right.
So I always say that because I was a kid that grew up in Oakland that went to school from Skyline to Castlemont to McClymonds, who lived and went to 13 different schools and graduated from Castlemont in East Oakland at 16 years old, right, with a little human in my hand. So I just want to say I give thanks to you, Keta, because we have to understand our ecosystem, the whole ecosystem, and how it affects us all.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
And am I supposed to pass it? Let me see. I don't have the agenda up yet.
Yes, here.
Do you mind passing it for me, Crystal? I'm about to get on my computer now so I can get completely started.
Yeah, no worries. Yasir did it for you. You can pass it on
Oh,
to
yeah, I see it.
Yasir.
Hey. Yeah, I see it.
Hey, peace, Keta. Everyone, peace. Yasir, who I am, I'm Yasir, and I wear a lot of hats, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. What I enjoy doing is just restoring balance to places that don't have balance. That's kind of my objective in life overall. On my role here is the subscriber director, OWL. So my job is to look out for all the subscriber owners out there. Both the ones that are getting energy from People Power Solar and the ones that are getting other benefits from People Power Solar. So that's the skinny. And I'm going to pass it to Worker Director Grayson Flood, who's also the note taker. Do you need a note taker, or are you gonna be able to take notes while you're talking?
I would appreciate a backup note taker for this section if someone doesn't mind volunteering.
Crystal.
I got you.
Volunteering is not volunteering.
I'll do it. I got it.
Thank you, Subin. Hi all, I'm Grayson Flood, he, him pronouns again. I'm the acting worker director. I'm stepping in the interim, at least for this quarter, because Crystal was the former worker director who has now been appointed to the other role. So as we all fill our various slivers, like Brandi mentioned, here I am. I guess just the worker director role formally in the bylaws is elected by and represents the interests of worker owners. So that's the staff of the cooperative, which is currently Crystal and I. And share a little bit about myself. I grew up in a upper middle class upbringing on the East Coast in Washington, DC. Very much went to private school, followed this track of you go to college, you get a job, you participate in capitalism. I grew up in a nice liberal Clintonite family. Went to UC Berkeley, studied computer science, was just like totally on the track to like be the techie liberal. But I also discovered music as I grew up, and thank God for music and all that it brought me. I studied music in school, but I think the thing it brought me more than that was a sense of community outside of career. Because you definitely do not build a career making music, or if you do, I don't know how you do it. And specifically jazz music and punk music and the radical histories of both of those musics, and the sort of DIY spirit that supports them. I left college in 2015 and started working for Mosaic, which is a big residential solar lending company that provides loans to homeowners. But during that time, I was part of like I had a bunch of more radical friends that played in punk bands and jazz bands, and was like doing reading groups with them and becoming more and more anti-capitalist, even though I wasn't living it yet. I was still working at this residential lending company. But in 2016, the election happened, and then the Ghost Ship fire happened, and it really put skin in the game in a way that I hadn't like experienced in my life before, and made it real to me how much power you have, and I basically quit my job like within months after that, and became, I think I'd become aware of how much the green transition can play a role in building economic and political power. You know, how there's such a huge transition in infrastructure there. And if we can find ways to build lines of solidarity and create community ownership of energy to do that. So that's what brought me to the work. I still play in a band here in New York. I moved to New York a year ago. I started working at volunteering at the Sustainable Economies Law Center, where I met a lot of the folks that were piloting this project and got brought on as a worker owner just through that work. And I think what brings me to the work is joy, working with other people, supporting other people, and working in solidarity for the commons, and not out of charity or for the market state of mind that we love to talk about in our slides. So that's me. And next up is Subin.
Hey y'all, much love to everyone. A lot of gratefulness to be in y'all's presence, to be a part of the space. I am the Permanent Cooperatives Director, appointed by the Sustainable Economies Law Center. And I could say more about that in a second. Who I am as a person, so I was born and raised in Texas, in Houston, in a part called A-Leaf, which is all I knew for a really long time. And if you've ever met anyone from A-Leaf, you'll know, because they'll tell you they're from A-Leaf. And it's a big part of who I am. I also grew up as the son of immigrants from India, and just sort of this like hybrid person of the different cultures that I was brought into. And I'm also a dad, and so relatedly, and you may hear my kiddo around, and I may be engaged closer to lunchtime over here, because I'm based in Washington, D.C. now, and so I'm 3 hours into the future. Spoiler alert, everything is still okay. Maya just spoke up, and thankfully we're very grateful to have some help watching her finally after 9 months of being with her alone. She survived it. You'll hear her. And what brought me to this work was a drive to work on climate and social justice together. And that ultimately led me to work at the Sustainable Economies Law Center, where I love her cry too, it's so beautiful. And so I started working at the Sustainable Economies Law Center about 5 years ago to direct our community renewable energy program. And ultimately that led to us trying to work on ways to get really community and grassroots led energy projects. And this concept of permanent cooperatives, which is a concept that we worked on not just for energy, but in the other areas that we work on, housing, farmland. And it's basically this idea of organizations that spread wealth and power by engaging everyday people in the development and stewardship of critical assets like energy, housing, land, and technology. So I dropped a link to more information about permanent cooperatives in the agenda for anyone who wants to read about that. And so this role by the Law Center to appoint a permanent cooperatives director, I'm just like, I'm sitting on the board in that role. And I think that's it for me again. So grateful to be here. And I'll pass it to our climate justice director, Ami.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. This is Ami here. I use she, her pronouns. I am climate justice director. As mentioned, it's my first meeting, so really excited to be with you all this morning. Already feeling better than the way I felt when I woke up, which was tired and did, but I work at an organization called the Asian Pacific Environmental Network, or APEN. We're also an environmental justice organization. We work in partnership with many of the orgs represented here, based in Oakland. We organize in Richmond and Oakland Chinatown with Asian American immigrant and refugee communities. And we're a member of the California Environmental Justice Alliance, or CEJA, which is sort of the organization that I've been appointed by on the board. And I think in this role, I'm hoping to bring, and just across the work, sort of being a bridge builder. I think CEJA does statewide policy advocacy and sort of contests for power in Sacramento and the legislature electorally, but it's really for the sake of the grassroots organizing that all the member organizations are doing with the community residents we work alongside. So bridging, right, that power building across scale, and making sure that state policies and programs around clean energy or environmental protection are really reaching and benefiting our folks, which in general, you know, they're not. There's a lot of work to do to build that bridge still in California. And I'm also, so at APEN, I'm research director. And so also like thinking of research as another place where knowledge creation is happening and, you know, technical expertise is built, and just thinking about how do we decolonize that sort of sector as well, and bring our community leadership and knowledge and stories as part of that technical expertise and knowledge base. So that's some of what I'm interested in. And I'm really grateful to be here with folks today. Is there, who's next? Oh, hey, Crystal, go ahead.
We have the full board. Welcome. Let's give ourselves a round of applause for welcoming all of us representing the cooperative. So now I will end the video recording.